Ms. Radewagen, I recognize you for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Takano and Ranking Member Bost, for holding this hearing today. It's nice to see you in person again, and I'm optimistic that we can eventually get COVID under control to the point where this becomes the norm again. I want to thank the panel for your testimony. Ms. Grosso, what actions has VA taken in the last 2 years to make VA's clinical workforce more resilient? And what would you say VA's top recruitment and retention challenges are, and what are you doing about them?
If I may, Congresswoman, I would like to speak to this topic. As Chairman Takano referenced in his opening statement, we have established the Reboot Task Force, of which I am the co-chair, along with Dr. Upton, our acting Deputy Undersecretary for Health, and the nurse executive from Los Angeles. And we are taking that time to really dig into burnout and understand what are the real drivers for our employees and what can we do to help them. We do focus on whole health for our employees and identify ways that we can give them protected time to take breaks or to invest in their well-being. We offer employee assistance program services, and we're exploring whether we may or may not need any legislative assistance to help us continue on that path. So that group is reviewing recommendations from the field right now actively and getting ready to share recommendations with our leadership. As for our recruitment and retention challenges, they were some of the same ones that we've referenced already. So we have challenges with our onboarding timelines that we are actively addressing to bring people on board more quickly. We also have difficulty because there's a shortage of qualified candidates in the market. And so we use some of the authorities that you all have granted us to create new people who can do the work through our scholarship programs and bring them on board with a service commitment back to VA. We also have complexities in our authorities and in our pay structures, and that's where we'll continue to need your assistance to address.
And Ms. Grosso, how, if at all, would future surges in COVID cases at this stage of the pandemic impact VHA's recruitment and retention efforts and ability to meet workforce growth targets?
Well, I think we've proven that we've been very agile as we've seen surges in the level of virus across the nation. And I would presume we'll be just as agile as we have in the past to continue being able to recruit and retain people to continue to do our mission. So I think if past is prologue, I think that we will be agile enough to address that, and we follow that very closely. We meet every morning at 8:30 with the Secretary, and that's one of our primary discussions. We're watching what's happening in Europe and what's happening in Asia. We're very cognizant of what's going on with our supply chain, and do we have the supplies we need? So we're constantly planning for the next event should it happen.
Ms. Grosso, in addition to the historically tough labor market for healthcare workers, the baby boomer generation, one of the largest in this country's history, are now going into mass retirement. That'll surely have a significant impact on staffing shortages as well as demand for VA long-term care services. Now, how is VA preparing for that and building a pipeline of workers to replace those who will be leaving the workforce?
Well, we certainly watch our retention numbers very closely, and interestingly, this past year we retained 6% more than we did the previous year, so we have about a 70% retention rate, which we think is actually pretty healthy because you have to have some turnover to bring new people in, but we do watch it very closely.
And how has VAHA quantified the impact staffing shortages at VA medical facilities has on access to care for veterans? What impact would it have on wait times if VHA vacancy rate was even lower than it was, say 5% instead of 10%?
I do not believe that we have quantified that specifically, but I can tell you what we do take a look at is turnover and the concerns that you've raised. And if our retirement rates were to start to go up, that would be a concern. We monitor that closely. We are not seeing our retirement rates go up. However, I know that across the government, they are starting to go up. And so what we are doing is investing on the front end to make sure that we can bring more new nurses in who are new to practice, as well as employees coming directly out of college, so that we keep a balanced workforce and sustain it at all times.
I have a couple of questions for the both of you, Ms. Burke and Ms. Westmoreland. Are there any private sector best practices that you think VHA should adopt for its own workforce?
Thanks, Congresswoman. I would say I have a niece right now that is graduating from nursing school, hopefully in May. And what she talked about is what we need to do for VA. And that was kind of mentioned a little bit by the prior panelists, but maybe not to the degree that it needs to be. And that is transition to practice type of programs, as well as the ability to shadow different areas, increasing slots, that they get a full panoply of experiences so that they know what they want to do. I think that will help recruit younger nursing coming out of schools, and currently it's not where it needs to be in VA.
Ms. Westmoreland?
And I totally agree with that. She just took my statement totally. Except for I'd like to also add that nurse practitioners are also at a very, if we want to hire younger nurse practitioners and people that'll stay in our facility, we have to also transition to practice program to them as well. We have a very limited number of slots at facilities for this, but if we don't do it, we're going to lose them because of the complexities and the things that people need to learn when they come out, especially for nurse practitioners. We need to increase the transition to practice numbers for them and for our nursing nurses as they come out at each facility. It's a very limited program. They're talking about how great it is, but they haven't expanded it where they need to.
So, Ms. Burke and Ms. Westmoreland, do you have any suggestions for how VA could better recruit and retain veterans? Ms. Burke?
Yes, veterans, they're wanting to come to VA, obviously. I think some of the demonstration projects where we have health techs in the ED transitioning to PAs, working in the EDs. The Navy has a great PA program, and physician assistants aren't really recognized at the level they should be for the amount of service-connected veterans we have. So I think that's one thing that we could do. And additionally, we do some good peer support things in our mental health aspect. But I think for nurses, I think we have a lot of nurses, or getting to more service-connected veterans and veterans that are nurses. But I don't think we just do some simple things like just recognize their service, like put a name tag, I'm a veteran. That should be a policy. Because when you lean over a person and give them a shot, the guy looks up or the girl looks up and they say, oh, you're like me. And that becomes like a simple fix that could make a difference.
Ms. Westmoreland?
I also think, in addition to all the things that MJ says, man, she's hard to follow, isn't she? But all the things that she said in that area are very important. One of the things that we have to do is to bring them on board faster and easier. And I think if we had some kind of program that would pipeline them from the military as they exit to the VA without taking so long to hire them. I mean, we've already vetted them to the nth degree. They're working with our military, right? So how come we can't make a program that will shorten their transition to us. But we also need to make sure that for the other nurses and these nurses as well, we need to offer better working conditions like 72 for 80 and better staffing conditions. Our community hospitals always offer that, but they come to our facilities and don't have it. We tell people they have to work around the clock hours, but the community hospitals don't do that. They tell them you can work days or evenings. So there's a lot that we can do to not just bring military nurses back in and veterans in from a nursing perspective, but all nurses as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.